Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, I love this. It's like I'm back in class. Thank you. We're really excited to kick off this conversation here. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure to meet, I'm Marco Davis. I'm the president and CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute. Thank you. And I'm really excited to kick off this insightful conversation with one of the nation's most effective leaders, as you'll hear about in a minute. And in fact, she is a leader of one of the most strategic and critical federal agencies, the U.S. Department of Commerce. So if you'll indulge me for a moment, I want to give you a little bit of a background and introduction on our guest speaker here. The granddaughter of an Italian immigrant who learned English in the local public library, our guest speaker is a Rhode Island native who began with humble roots, became an exceptional scholar with unsurpassed academic credentials, and then became a business leader who founded a venture capital firm. Quite versatile. She was elected treasurer and then was elected the first woman governor of the state of Rhode Island. That's right. And now she serves as the 40th United States Secretary of Commerce, where I understand her mission is to spur good-paying jobs, empower entrepreneurs to innovate and grow, and help American workers and businesses compete. So folks, please join me in welcoming Secretary Gina Raimondo.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. The energy, feel the energy as soon as you walk in the door. It's fantastic.
Great. We are, it's been a great 2 days. We've been having good conversations with folks, insightful conversations, and so we're excited to chat with you. Now, CHCI, ultimately, at the end of the day, is a leadership development institute. What our tagline is, in fact, developing the next generation of Latino leaders. So given that bio I just shared with all of the audience, I'd really love to hear a little bit about your leadership journey. Why don't you tell us a little bit about growing up in Rhode Island, your path to becoming first governor of the state and now Secretary of Commerce. What were some of the insights you learned and experiences along the way?
Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate that. By the way, the reason that I became governor was because I had an army of Latinas behind me. And that is no exaggeration. No exaggeration. I had a very tough election in 2014. As a woman, my state hadn't elected a Democrat in 25 years for governor. So it was hard. And I had a group, and they were women, who were just amazing. And they set up this army of door knockers. And really, truthfully, when I started running that year, I was like 16 points down in the polls. Nobody thought I could win. Yeah, it was a bit of crazy that I did win, but it was this group of women who just believed in me. And I think the reason they got behind me is because they knew that I shared their value of helping young people, giving everybody a chance, and they trusted me to work with them once I got elected, which I did do. But I have to say, and I'm still close. They're some of my closest friends now that I'm down here. We stay in touch. The reason I ran for office, and it has a lot to do with my life, which is maybe like a lot of you guys. I did start off kind of working class family, immigrant family. My grandpa came from Italy. He lived in the house with us. I grew up in a small house filled with people, a huge amount of love. And I spent every Sunday afternoon listening to Italian radio in the basement. You can relate to that, right? Because that's how he connected to where he was from, was the radio. And so that's just where I came from. As Marco said, he learned English in the library at night. And my family was just drilled into us, you got to get a good education. My dad went to college on the GI Bill. My mom and dad sacrificed like crazy so my brother, sister, and I could go to college. And it was always a steady diet of stick up for the working man and woman, give other people opportunities, help others, because we have achieved the American dream through education and through people helping us. But when I was governor, I fought for 2 years tuition-free community college, and we got it done. And I would say, my dad went to college, paid for by the United States government, because he got the GI Bill. And that one college degree changed my family forever. So anyway, those are the values that I took into office. The day I decided to run for office, I was reading an article in the newspaper, and it talked about how on account of budget shortfalls, they were closing libraries. The bus service public buses were not gonna run anymore nights, weekends, and holidays. Libraries were not gonna operate at night. And I thought of my grandpa, who worked all day as a cook, like so many immigrants, got a job in the restaurant. And then at night he went to the library to study. And I said, if the libraries were closed at night, I might not have been able to achieve what I've achieved. So I ran for governor. On that, I'm very pro-education, and really kind of fix the fiscal situation so we could invest in public schools, public buses, public libraries, so folks could have a chance to better themselves and get a decent job.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, lots of lessons, and certainly I think we all can relate to the idea of the lessons you learn from family at home, right? And how that really creates the foundation on which you build your work. So talking more about our community, our theme for the conference this year is Rooted in Strength, Achieving Our Dreams. And it's meant to highlight the essence of our community that's grounded in this rich history and this vibrant heritage, but also leveraging to both pursue our highest ideals and the American dream. Can you talk a little bit about the Department of Commerce's mission to create conditions for economic growth and deliver opportunity for all communities? What are a couple of initiatives maybe at Commerce that will improve the economic outlook for all Americans, but obviously in particular if they may be beneficial to the Latino community?
Yeah, definitely. So first I should say everything that we do, we've got 50,000 employees all over the world. It's a huge operation. Every single thing we do, I tell my team, has to be rooted in equity. Whether it's promoting trade or helping commercial fishermen, because we have a huge operation around oceans. Everything we do, I say everything has to be rooted in equity. So that's like the through line through our whole, how we hire, how we come up with programs, how we put money out the door, everything. But to a couple of programs you said, the first thing is we run in the Department of Commerce the MBDA, Minority Business Development Agency. This is so crazy. It's the only agency in the entire federal government with a mission to help minority businesses of $1 million in revenue or above. And it's a tiny organization. So we are very focused on doing everything we can do there. If you have a small business or someone or organizations you work in, check it out. MBDA in the Department of Commerce. We provide technical support to minority-owned businesses, help folks get financing, help folks do procurement for federal contracting, et cetera. So that's one thing that's really important. The other thing we're doing is last year in the infrastructure bill, Congress sent $50 billion to the Commerce Department to help bring internet to everyone.
Billion with a B. Folks.
Yeah, but huge, a lot of money. And the president's been clear with me, says your goal is to make sure every single American has internet that they can afford. And the affordability is a key piece of the puzzle. Because I'm from Rhode Island. Everyone technically has access to broadband and the internet in Rhode Island. But if it's $100 a month, what good is that? You can't afford $100 a month. So we've started an initiative, it's called Internet for All, simple. And we're really working with governors, mayors, nonprofits to make sure this money gets deployed so that at the end of the day, every school kid can have an internet and the skills needed, every hospital, every person can do telemedicine and the whole thing. I will say, a lot of the states, Arizona, Nevada, who have particular issues with broadband are high Latino populations. And most of it is because of the geography and topography. in a mountain range or very rural places, it's incredibly expensive to lay fiber. So I just put that out there because I think, not surprisingly, the Hispanic population has been left out as it relates to access to internet and broadband. And they are concentrated in some states where it's a problem. So I want you to know we're extremely focused on that, and whether it's in inner city in New York City or on a tribal land in Arizona or a rural area of Texas, we're going to get the internet to you over the next 5 years.
That's really great to hear, because again, as we all know, I think we all remember distinctly, I think for me it was really thrown into stark relief during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
When we all heard and saw the images of the young people sitting outside a fast food restaurant just to access Wi-Fi to do their homework, right? And those were young people from our communities that were having to do that disproportionately. So I'm really glad to hear about that initiative. And yes, one of the things I think our audience can do and our network can do is to help spread the word about that opportunity, right? Because that's another piece, is being able to take advantage of it is often one of the challenges in our communities, the lack of information about these opportunities that exist so that folks can actually benefit from it and lower their price and gain access to broadband. So switching gears, speaking about our community and about the strength and the talent that we contribute, you've also been focused on workforce development efforts, ensuring that everyone has an opportunity to get a good paying and a secure job. Can you talk to us a little bit about the types of jobs you're talking about, what the public and also the private sector, we have a good number of private sector representatives here in our network at the conference. What can both of those folks together or separately do to help ensure Latinos aren't left behind or left out from these workforce opportunities?
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm working on is to help women, Latinos, people of color, people without a college degree, get into higher paying jobs. Now, many of those jobs are tech, digital and tech jobs. And so we are rolling out, in partnership with states and nonprofits, job training initiatives where we are helping people, sometimes people who are working, but they're in a job that doesn't pay well, to get them digital skills so they can get a better job. I did a lot of this as governor, and the way we do it is you start with the company. You got to get the company to agree to hire people, assuming they've successfully completed the training. The biggest way that we're doing that at the Commerce Department right now is in the semiconductor business. So Congress just passed a huge piece of legislation called the CHIPS Act for America. We think we're going to create, and that's the Commerce Department is implementing that, we think we'll create easily 200,000 jobs. But we're going to have to invest some of the money in workforce training so that everyone can participate in those jobs. If you look at the workforce in semiconductor companies, it is highly male and pretty much all white. But the average jobs in these places is $100,000 a year, and you do not need a college degree. So I am on a mission, and my team is really sick of hearing this from me. I'm obsessed. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yeah, probably so. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to upskill women, people of color, people who have been left behind. Whenever are we going to be able to create a couple 100,000 jobs in these high-paying jobs again? So I am determined to make sure that half the people who get these jobs are women and a third or more are people of color. There is no reason not to. We're going to do it. And so you gotta, and by the way, I did this when I was the governor. You work with public schools. You go to the community. You work with community colleges. You have to do earn while you learn programs. This is huge. You can't ask people to leave their job to go get job training. Who's going to pay the rent? You need to keep your job. You need to get paid, while you're doing the training. So there are ways to make this happen. You just have to be really focused on it, and we are going to make it happen.
That's great. I'm really glad to hear you say that for a couple of reasons. One, I think again, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I've heard this term often used, upskilling, and it's really a critical piece, right? It's helping people move into roles and to tackling the new opportunities that may previously have been out of reach of them because of those technical skills that they need to gain.
When I was in Rhode Island as governor, I would go out for dinner, and I would always ask the waitress, waiter, about themselves, etc. And you would be surprised how many waiters and waitresses, bartenders, had gone to college. So they had some college, but they dropped out of college because they ran out of money. And then they were waitressing or bartendering to pay the college loans, but they didn't have the degree, so they couldn't get a better job. That's who I want to go after. And a lot of those people are people of color. So we got to go find them and train them, and maybe they can get the college degree or maybe not, but they can get the skills they need to get a good paying job. And so this is kind of how I think about it, because these people, every single one I talked to was articulate, super hardworking, wanted a better job. They have the will and the skill. You just, they got to get trained in the particular skills for these jobs. Big time desire. Yeah.
I've done the same with 2 waitresses, and I actually hired them because they were amazing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There's no shortage of desire, no shortage of ganas, as we say in our community, for sure. And I'm really glad to hear about this initiative, because I think it's also a really good example of something I personally believe in, that to really make profound, lasting, widespread change, you really need this kind of partnership that I would argue all 3 sectors. Right?
Yes.
You need the scale of the government. You need the scale of the federal government in particular, right, which can both resources in significant amounts and at a systemic level can oversee. But you need partnership with the private sector, as you mentioned, going to the companies who are nimble, who are often most directly interacting with and working and can hire and train those workers individually. And I would argue the nonprofit sector, the third sector, is often really critical because they often provide those wraparound supports, whether it be information and guidance to folks, to the additional, for example, transportation subsidies, right, or childcare support, or social services in other ways and areas that helps those workers navigate the process of earning while they learn, and all of those kinds of things, so that they can actually succeed and successfully complete those programs and go on to great things. So yeah, it's really exciting to hear it. I'm very optimistic to hear about that, and I think it's a wonderful example of the kinds of things we're finally beginning to do as a society, and I think in partnership with the federal government we'll be able to achieve. So we're almost at time, but I do have, I think, one more question we've got time for, which is, selfishly, if I could ask you to share a little. My organization, my colleagues have been in conversation with your colleagues about putting together, formalizing an MOU, a partnership to work, CHCI, with the Department of Commerce. And I wonder if you might share a little bit about what's in the works for that.
Yeah. So we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We have a little bit more paperwork to do, but it's going to happen.
Mr. President, we are your witness.
Yeah, it'll happen.
No, they're committed. There's no
always too much
hesitation. It's literally
paperwork.
just jumping through hoops.
It's too much paperwork in government, but we'll make it happen. So we want to take interns from CHCI. We want you to help us find young, talented people with an interest in government who could come intern with us at the Department of Commerce. I think it'd be fantastic. And hopefully, some of these young interns will find their way to full-time jobs, either with Department of Commerce or in the federal government. So I think this is great. I'm all for it. And by the way, I'm for any other partnership ideas that you have. Other creative ideas that you have, consider me a willing partner. I think everyone's got to pitch in.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, for me, one of the great things when your colleagues, in fact, reached out to us and expressed that interest was really exciting, because I knew, having worked in federal government at one point, which is another piece I think that folks don't know that you alluded to, is that the Department of Commerce has 50,000 employees, as you just mentioned, and they're not all in just one space, right? You mentioned MBDA, but NOAA, you did refer to it, right? The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the Census Bureau, and I mentioned MBDA.
It's crazy. International trade.
Yeah, there's like so many different branches and divisions. So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of different areas of work and expertise. And so it's something very, very exciting that we're looking forward to, and that we're happy to be able to to make progress on it, that hopefully we'll be able to announce the finalization and to move forward. We do need some support on the private sector side, so any folks out there who want to partner with us to help underwrite some of our costs on this end, please do follow up. But yeah, this is something that's really close to happening, and we're very excited to be able to do it and to make it go forward. I think that's all we have at time, because I know we have our sessions that are beginning and our workshops that we've got to get to. But if you all will please join me in giving a round of applause to Secretary Raimondo.
I appreciate you inviting me.
I know she's also got to run to her next appointment, but we really appreciate your time here, and enjoy the rest of the conference.